Welcome to Underground Trio here in Rauta. I'm Jerry, and once again we will go through 3 different underground metal albums in order which I find personally to be worst to best. That doesn't really mean that none of these albums are bad, but as the saying goes, let's rank them from worst to best. And because of these are all different styles, it means these are not often so comparable that you would necessarily or otherwise agree what I am about to say about these albums, how I'm ranking them for this video. It's only to, we have to have some kind of a ranking, some excitement for the albums in question. As always, you will find links provided in the description box for you to check out the music. Now let's do it, and I'm still figuring out which way to do them. Alright, let's first head to Hungary with a band called Runeshard with their debut album Shadowbane, which came out already a couple of years ago. What is often the case with Underground Trio episodes is that you will see some older bands and sometimes just smaller ones. This is a debut album and second release by this band of 2 guys from Hungary doing something that we could call symphonic black metal. At least that's what the Metal Archive site is saying about it. And as you can see, this is very, very basic release, basic digipack, no lyric sheets, no booklets, just the covers and an album. And the first thing you really need to know, this is super cheesy. I was about to say it's like a sugar-coated donut with double fudge toffee, whatever you have there, and then some syrup on it. The thing here is, first it, really, really reminds me of Balsagot. But then again, I realized it's been probably a couple of decades since my last time I really listened to Balsagot. So I'm like, can I really, trust my memory and all? Let's just say that when I say symphonic, I don't really mean the kind of emperor-like of symphonic, but more like super cheesy one. That means there are lots of keyboards and they're totally dominating the music here. I mean, it's more like the guitars are barely visitors here, whereas the guitars and the whatever try to do the melodic stuff, but it's really, really the keyboard layers that are really dominating the music here. This goes on from the very beginning to the very end, and of course you have the kind of a traditional black metallic vocals and all that stuff. Now, in some cases, this kind of music could really be something else than just, symphonic black metal. I mean, whether you call it this pure blood black metal or just kind of epic power metal-esque extreme metal, that's up to you. I would say yes, if you're ready to embrace bands like Balsagot to these kind of a subgenre of things with really bit more black metal in the mix, then this kind of justifies being called symphonic black metal. But I think it could be nailed as melodic black metal with lots of keyboards. I mean, there are bands which are not necessarily symphonic, even there with lots of keyboards. It's just how you use them, how you orchestrate them, and this is a little bit of borderline case. I mean, I kind of understand why it's labeled as such, but for some people it really might be something else. Now, whatever the genre here is, this is not for people who are allergic to keyboards. I mean, you kind of have to embrace the super cheesy, sugar-coated stuff, ready to be like, yeah, keyboard's number one, whatever the rest are doing, I don't really care. And then you just kind of get on with it. Now, I think the previous release was a little bit better, but I don't know, if you are up for the kind of a given style, go for it. Then we go a little bit same direction, but also something different with a band from Finland called Avathar. This is an interesting band because it has been there for more than 20 years now, but they have released more demos than actual albums. More curiously enough, that back in the days when they did release a couple of albums around 2004, after that they did like half a dozen demos. So it's more like going backwards. A lot of bands do first a couple of demos and then they start doing albums only to come back never again to the so-called demo phase. But it's like Avathar is different. It took them quite some time. This album was released originally, I think, 2021. And then they did this third album. So there was something like 17 years or 15 years, something like that, between the albums and all. I don't know if this actually counts as a full album. I think it is labeled as such, but whatever the case is, what you have here in essence is the very same style the band has always been doing, and this is what I would call fantasy metal. fantasy metal where you just kind of pick the best pieces of something, the very atmospheric melodic stuff coming in the black metal territory with the screamy vocals and all that stuff, marrying then again or blending together with battle lore. Actually, there's one shared member of the band at least. And the music means, the description here means that it's very, very Tolkien-inspired band. I think there's nothing else really but Tolkien here. And then you kind of do it with very melodic, to a certain degree, almost symphonic ways, adding a lot of keyboard elements here in the play, and putting into some kind of epic fantasy metal thing. I mean, of course, when you're talking about Tolkien stuff, the word epic really, really fits the game here. And this is what I'm talking about here. It's very atmospheric, very melodic, lots of keyboards and all that stuff. But as opposed to battle lore, for instance, this is not, female vocal driven so much, but, it's just like, let's go black metal filter through the whole stuff, which gives us the summoning feeling once again. But compared to summoning, I would say this is also somewhat different. Maybe summoning is more traditional second wave black metal, where this is more like getting away from it all, at least a little bit. But then again, screamy vocals and what have you, yeah. So there's a reason why this is called on metal archives such as black/folk metal. Not really that folky. I think the proper word would be just saying it's fantasy metal. Even if you would call it dark metal, it wouldn't really, mislead you too much. But now you know what you're expecting. Expect a kind of epic journey, which is not too memorable, but very soothing, more like a background atmospheric black metalic thing going on. If you call it black metal-esque rather than just pure black metal, it's totally fine. Like I said, you really could go on with more, say, dark metal and the like. But very, very much keyboard driven, not just so cheesy as the Runeshard band here, but not also the best of Avathar, not the worst, somewhere between the best demos and the weaker ones. And then finally we head to Netherlands with a band called Kjeld. I don't even want to pronounce this album name because it's such a weird name. And this is a kind of a side project like of a band which has been there a few years now. Not too many albums or anything like that. But it seems like the veteranship of the band is very, very audible. I mean, if you listen to this band, you will figure it out instantly. This album is actually pretty good. And it features some skilled, some talented people who are like, yeah, we've been doing it before. This is not our first go doing black metal. And it shows. Now, having a 55 minutes of that is another question, whether it's too much or whether you could have trimmed off the fat and just focused on the best parts. Now, it starts strongly, but towards the end we go, you will figure it out. It has some of the weaker points. Not necessarily weak, but, maybe not the best parts are in the first parts of the album, which is my way to say, yeah, you could have trimmed it down a little bit because 55 minutes is a little bit too much unless you're really nailing it down like the best of Marduk and the like. But overall, this is pretty good of an album. I mean, it's well balanced, not the best of the production out there, but still good. You have the kind of a good vocals, kind of a traditional, a little bit more in the raspy than shrieky, screamy side of things. And then you have lots of riffs, which are really good. There's enough variation with the songwriting and also it's not just copy-pasting one song after another. It's not the most aggressive, not the fastest album out there, but it's definitely more on the faster and more intense style of black metal as opposed to more atmospheric and, mid-tempo leaning black metal, what have you. I think this is pretty good, and I am thinking only if only the band would have trimmed it down a little bit, this would be really, really challenging a lot of those classics. Now I would say, yeah, it's definitely challenging some, and beating even some of the 1990s Nordic black metal ones. But when it comes to the best of the top, the cream de la cream, yeah, not that far really. But definitely a band I would like to see live now. I am stoked to hear more because this is giving me a lot of promise of things to come. So if you're into more traditional second wave black metal with not too much originality but enough variation and all, this is an album to go to. So like I said, 3 different styles which are not comparable. More symphonic take on black metal, black folk metal with Tolkien themes, and then more traditional melodic black metal. So kind of similar, kind of the same target audience, but also a little bit different. Like said, with repeating myself here, The links are provided in the description box. Go check it out and figure out which bands are for your liking and all that stuff. If you disagree with me, it's totally fine. I guess I'm actually hoping for it. But it's now your turn to figure out which ones are for you. And off you go. Looking forward to review more stuff for you later on. Take care. Bye bye.